Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. We are, I have no clue how to start these, like, literally every single fucking time. We're here to talk to you about Lughnasadh. If you're new to our podcast, this is like a fun overview witchy podcast where we talk about stuff and we learn together and we grow. If you're a returning customer, hello, how have you been?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our 3 listeners.
Yeah,
we
right?
Appreciate you.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on your podcast thing, these are also, like, whatever your podcast thing is, because it's on a bunch of them. And if it's not on the one that you like, tell me, and I'll figure out a way to put it on there.
Yep.
Sometimes I don't know about these things. But we also put these out as full-length YouTube videos, so you can watch our silly faces as we talk about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so if you are listening to it on a podcast thing, please, I gotta get this out of the way, pay the bills as it were, and there's no money involved, but you know what I mean. Please leave us a review. That's the best way to, like, communicate with us that you listened and that you are having a good time. Or if you're not having a good time, leave a review also. You know, whatever, that's fine.
It also helps other people find us, so you can share the love.
Yeah, exactly.
Your, the rest of the world.
And if you are on YouTube, you've heard this before. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, bop it, twist it, pull it. You know, the
bump
game,
it.
The game from '90s.
No,
the
that's the thing that goes in your hair. The bump it.
Yeah, Bop It was the name of the thing.
I know that. Yes.
I had both of them, Bop It and Bop It XL.
I was having a conversation today about bump its in regards to chicken feathers, so it's like fresh in my mind.
Yeah, we don't do that here. Our hair is not '80s.
The bump it was really more of like.
Was it '90s?
It was really more like a 2000s thing.
I don't know. Also, if you are new here, there are a lot of fucking sidetracks. I'm not going to apologize for them. It's entertaining or something. Whatever. It's the way that my brain works is mostly how that's happening. If you would like to support future endeavors like this, check out our Patreon. And you'll get some stuff. I'll go into it at one of the breaks, so don't worry. We're not going to talk about it now, so we can get into it. So today we are talking about Lughnasadh. Mm-hmm. It is not spelled how it sounds.
Not at all.
If you're an English speaker in America.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, maybe that's phonetic in another language, but it's certainly not phonetic in English.
Not.
Let me tell you what. So,
Yeah.
what the fuck's Lughnasadh?
So Lughnasadh is one of the 8 sabbats on the pagan wheel of the year. It's the one that comes after midsummer and before the autumn equinox, which is about midway to August 1st.
Yeah.
So it's typically held on August 1st, although sometimes it's the nearest Sunday. So this is one of those ones that has kind of like a flexible date. So if you want to celebrate or are planning to celebrate, but August 1st is not a good day for you to do that, trust me, nobody's going to be upset with you celebrating on a day that works better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in the southern hemisphere, for any of you southern hemisphere people, I was going to say down under, but then I was like, Australia isn't the only place in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah. Southernites?
In the southern hemisphere,
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Southernites.
Lughnasadh happens on February 1st. And it has a few other names too, like many of these celebrations do. So Lughnasadh has some of the most absurd ones. So it's also known as Lammas. That's probably the most popular name.
Like the bread? Is that a bread?
No, that's Lembas.
That is lumbus.
No, this is Lammas, that is Lembas. But you could eat
Lammas.
Lembas on Lammas.
Like lambast?
You
Like to lambast somebody?
you could eat some lembas whilst lambasting someone on lammas.
Yeah.
While sitting on top of a llama. Or an alpaca, your choice.
It's a limbus, lumbus, lammas, llama. Technically, sentence. Welcome to English. It's a joke.
It's a weird place.
It's
So
a joke
some of the other
language.
names for Lughnasadh, besides Lammas, are not nearly as fun, but are silly. Garland Sunday, Bilberry Sunday, which is a specific type of berry, Mountain Sunday, Reek Sunday, don't ask, I don't know, and Loaf Mass Day.
Yeah.
It sounds like one of those things where you like press the center button on your on your keyboard to give you a day.
I mean, Llamas sounds like it could be loaf-mass, and my guess is that it's just kind of one of those things that, like, linguistically co-evolve. They're just like, Llamas! And you're like, yeah, we make loaves also. And you're like, oh, that's not
Well, a lot of Llamas is...
So, but it's good enough. So we call it Loaf-Mass Day. Yeah.
Well, Loaf-Mass Day...
And it's reek like the rat, not like the smell.
It is reek like the smell. Or the character from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It is reek like the smell.
Yeah. It's right there.
Yeah.
R-E-E-K. So,
My eyeballs fully did not see that
whatever
right.
it is that you're calling Lughnasadh, it is really sort of like it marks the beginning of the harvest season. It's the first of 3 of the harvest festivals. So, take this as the official okay to start celebrating fall, my ladies and my gentlemen. August 1st for Llamas.
First of all, if you say milady, you have to tip your fedora. We're from the internet. So
I don't have a fedora to tip.
you have to tip an imaginary fedora. It's an internet thing. I don't make up the rules. I just participate in internet nonsensicery.
Yeah, so Llamas isn't technically, or Lughnasadh isn't technically the beginning of fall, but it is the beginning of the harvest season because in the ancient times, all of these Wheel of the Year things typically fall into a way to work the land, and this is sort of the beginning there.
Yeah.
But it's also a thanks to the spirits of the land and just sort of the spirits in general for helping crops grow.
It's the early, so this is like an early harvest thing. So like if you're a gardener or you like grow plants, or you're like a not great gardener like I am, I have a lot of garden and just have apparently made great enemies with deer folk. Because my garden gets murdered by deer all the time.
The garden is growing fine.
It's growing fine. Yeah, it's just that nothing makes it to fruition because the deer are like, "What do you got over there? Food? I'm gonna fucking eat that before you can eat that."
Yeah.
So deal with that, I guess. God rest my tomato plants. Yeah. So for your like early harvest plants, like now's the time. You're like our early tomatoes are like starting to like pop off. I literally picked like 3 of them that had already split. They had gotten so ripe.
Yeah.
Recent, like a couple of days back from recording this. So like Llamas is your early harvest. It's not your like late fall, early winter harvest.
It's not apples,
stuff.
it's zucchini.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Totally.
Although technically in the olden times they mark it with harvesting grain, most specifically corn, as well as harvesting berries.
Yeah. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong if you know more, I'm pretty certain August 1st is too early to harvest corn.
Well, I think that
right, because I mean the old
and
saying
even thousands of years ago, it probably was the right time. But
maybe,
we live in a time where the seasons have
we
shifted.
also eat a different type of determinate corn.
Well, no, I think it has to do
like
more...
corn is different than it used to be.
Yes, that is true.
Certainly.
But I think it has more to do with seasonal shift. So where we live in Northern California, summer kind of doesn't even really begin until
Oh yeah, we also live in Northern California if you don't know that. So we have our own seasonal drama.
Yeah. So for us, that like it's by the time everybody's talking about fall in the beginning of September, we're really at like the middle, like the heat of the summer here, and our fall doesn't even really begin until like November, Thanksgiving, and we don't get the rainy season until no. It is definitely not.
Yeah.
And we don't get the rainy season until like January, and then spring kind of really actually begins, usually around the week of my birthday, which is Beltane. So I think it has more to do with seasonal shift, and also you're like, well, August is still summer, and that feels awfully soon to me. So there's also that.
Seasonal shift is really just an issue with a calendar.
Well,
than with anything else.
We are looking at a calendar for this.
Dramatic calendar.
So for Llamas, Lughnasadh, you're really thanking the spirits and the land for helping the crops grow, and some of it has to do with honoring Mother Earth as well as honoring your ancestors. But the festival itself, Lughnasadh, is named after the Celtic god Lugh, and the word Lughnasadh comes from his name, and the word for assembly, which is Nasadh. So when you put those together, it modifies them and it turns into Lughnasadh. So it's an assembly for Lugh, a Lugh assembly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is the god of warriors and craftsmen and just sort of crafts in the arts in general, as well as oaths and leadership. So you're seeing a lot of the same things in Lugh that we're seeing in other deities that we've talked about. Like, you can see some of this coming from Zeus, and you can see some of this coming from Thor. Not that Lugh is a god that was taken from another culture, but you sort of have similar things that you see in different deities across pantheons. And Lugh, in more modern times, is actually sometimes referred to John Barleycorn, or referred to as John Barleycorn, as the spirit of the corn that you're harvesting so that your family can eat during the winter, basically. And Robert Burns, who's a very famous Scottish poet, actually wrote a ballad about John Barleycorn, which we will link to in the show notes and in the description below, because it's pretty cool. And during Lughnasadh, you really have some very fun things that are typical. So Lughnasadh is about, of course, doing rituals, but also athletic contests and matchmaking and trading and visiting holy wells and, of course, feasting. But bonfires were actually not very common as a celebratory thing. Not that bonfires didn't happen or that people didn't gather around the fire, but bonfires just weren't really a very common thing for celebrating Lughnasadh, unlike what we see at Beltane and at Midsummer and in the darker times of the year. And I think that maybe that's because they know the land is dry and they don't want to catch it on fire.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I mean, let's think about this. In bloody January, if you're having a festival, that shit's cold, dog. So you want like heat to party. But in the middle of bloody summer, you know, like Og 1, you're getting warm temps. It's too hot.
You don't need that fire.
It's too hot. Don't make it more hot out. That's bananas. Let's instead of doing this with a bonfire, let's do this like under a fucking tree where it's shady. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so again, like logic begets tradition, kind of a thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Also, dangerous fires. We live in California. Don't be an asshole about fire, please.
Don't bring your baby announcements to our parks.
Yeah. Unless you're gonna do it smoke. Like, chill boy. Just don't start fires. There's no details. Don't start fires. Yeah. Be responsible.
So in reading up on Lughnasadh, I thought it was really interesting because it is a similar time of year, and the things that were traditionally celebrated and done during Lughnasadh remind me a lot of the Scottish Games.
Yeah.
And sort of fairs and that sort of thing where you're having contests and you're having pageants and you've got like a bunch of merchants who are selling their wares, and some of those wares are crafts and some of those wares are other things. But you also have feasts. Like, who doesn't go crazy on food at like a fair, or like a county fair, a convention or something? But you also have contracts and matchmaking, which isn't really common for modern fairs, but I mean, when you think about like a couple hundred years ago, that would have been a time for people to get together.
They are common at fairs. Contracts. I think a lot of fairs have what do you call that fancy person that you have to have stamp shit when you're doing legal shit? Yeah, notaries. I've seen notary booths at fairs before.
That's very strange to me.
Yeah, I've definitely
as
been like a
who has been certified as a notary. That is very strange.
Take our business cards, please. Let us help you do business. And I mean, matchmaking, like, this definitely isn't wedding season. Like, it's a little late for wedding season. But with regard to like getting into relationships and stuff like that, I mean, I feel like a fair is generally pretty like.
I mean, it's definitely a date kind of place.
Like taking people on a date, picking up chicks or dudes, rock and roll kind of a thing. And I'm trying to think like, Like, I've definitely seen like matchmaking stuff at fairs before.
I mean,
what do
you
you call
can
those?
get
Like
married at a fair.
No, I don't mean married, but what you call it, like a speed dating. You know, like a meet your partner kind of a situation there.
Well, you can matchmake legal contracts sort of thing. You can get married at a fair. In fact, my brother married his wife at our local county fair.
Yeah.
Several years ago.
Like a auctioneer. Have you seen those like county fair like matchmaking auction things? Have you ever seen anything like that?
I have.
Where they have like an auctioneer come up and they're like, we got Brenda over here. She's 43 years old. We're gonna take this guy over here. We're gonna take Chet over. We're gonna take Bob over here. You know, and they're like, it's all for fun, and generally they're like raising money for charity or whatever. But it's like a banging good time. You know, it's one of those like fun country fried things. I love fairs. Bye.
So there's a lot of really fun things about Lughnasadh that just remind me of the fair and Scottish games especially. Which is something that is near and dear to our hearts. We were just talking today about ordering fresh kilts for the
Scottish games. So like Highland festivals and like Ren fairs, as well as like county fairs and state fairs and all that business. Yeah.
So that's kind of Lughnasadh. And I'm not saying that it's a precursor to what we know as county fairs, but there's a lot of really striking similarities.
There's a lot of connective tissue there.
Yeah. So the thing about the athletic contests is actually pretty wild. So athletic contests in ancient times were often done at funeral celebrations to honor whoever it is that's departed. In fact, as people, we have proof of this going all the way back to the ancient Greeks. And in particular, a lot of these athletic contests are similar to the ancient Greek games. So they also included, things like running and swimming and archery and hurling, which is like taking a big heavy thing and literally just hurling it in a direction.
It's thrown
lifting, horse racing, and a lot of these other like competitions that you'll see at these type of fairs, particularly ones that are centered around that, like Scottish games and other types of things like that. In fact, there's evidence that in ancient Ireland and England and Scotland that the people holding these festivals for Lughnasadh even constructed and filled man-made lakes for swimming contests as well as other types of water sports. Which is, I mean, like when you think about it, like, oh, like the pyramids are huge and like a big thing, but I'm just like, they made a lake? What?
Again, it's August. Shit's hot, dog. What do you want to do? Start a bonfire? Build a big old hole filled with water. Just put it out there. Makes sense.
So they definitely did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's hot. I don't want a bloody fire right now. Like, it's warm in here. You know? I would much rather be sitting in a lake right now, but we're not.
It was surprisingly warm today.
Yeah, we were sitting in a lake yesterday, though.
We were. It was fantastic.
Bam.
So the story goes in Celtic mythology that Lughnasadh is said to have started as a funeral feast and an athletic competition. Athletic competition. Wow. Because Lugh's mother, Taotewe, was an earth mother goddess who died of exhaustion after preparing and tilling the fields of Ireland so that they could then be used for agriculture, primarily for growing crops, but also for grazing animals. So he was so distraught that she died of essentially exhaustion that he decided to have a big thing for her. And it started with athletic contests, and you can't have people doing athletic contests without food, and if you've got food, that means you need to have people selling food, and then you might as well have other people selling things, and then it just sort of like spiraled and got larger as sort of traditions happened.
Definitely.
Also,
new segment of the show, old segment of the show, how do you say Teotihuacan? Because there's about 1 million different ways that you can probably pronounce that word. How do you think it's said? I have heard specifically Teotihuacan mentioned in like varying degrees of like accented and non-accented. That's one of those ones because like she comes up often enough in like fantasy literature that I read.
At this point, I'm about ready to get onto Duolingo and like start learning Gaelic, so I have a better grasp of this stuff.
See, real question though, which Gaelic? That's the problem there.
Well, but it's not just Gaelic.
We're going to look up and we're going to try to say it as best as we can. And if you disagree and have a better way of saying it, then let us know. Hit us up on social media and tell us. Right?
Yeah, so in addition to the athletic contest, like we were talking about, is trading. So trading is, really all of that.
We have to describe
all of that
merchanty
merchanty stuff, and I don't need to explain to you what trading is.
So trading is when you take a thing and then you want my thing and you have some stuff that I want.
Yeah.
And we just like change hands with it.
That is in fact what trading is. Yes. But I mention it because it is thought that the world's oldest fair, which is called the Puck Fair, it's been held in early August, is the remnants of a Lughnasadh festival. Huh. And this fair in I believe it's in Ireland has been held since 1613. But it's probably actually been held much longer than that. 1613 is just the oldest surviving documentation of it. So I think that that's pretty cool to think that people have been sort of like partying like it's 1613 during this time of year for a long time.
Super hardcore.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So that's definitely now on my bucket list, is visiting the Puck Fair.
Where is the Puck Fair held?
It's held in the UK. I believe it's held in Ireland, but it could be in Scotland, England, Wales. Yeah.
You're gonna have to look that's definitely the more interesting fact, is where is it held?
I thought the most interesting fact was how old it was, so I did not think to look that up.
It's in Killorglin. It's in County Kerry. I see. Okay. It's in County Kerry.
Oh, so it is in Ireland. I was right. Woohoo! So that is now on our bucket list of things to visit, is the Puck Fair.
Yeah.
And Puck is in fact named after who you think it is, the trickster satyr god Puck.
Yeah. It's just a goat. The fair literally translates to Fair of the He-Goat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Puck.
Yeah. So another thing that was common with Lughnasadh was visiting holy wells, but not just any holy well, a special type of holy well called a Clooty. That's Clootie. Clooty. And these type of wells, some of them are actually springs. They typically have a tree growing next to them, and what people will do is they will go to the well, they will walk clockwise around the well, and then they will take strips of cloth, typically from items of clothing that they have that they actually still wear. So, maybe the inside of the hem, or a place that nobody would notice that you're missing fabric on a garment, and they would dip it into the water of the well, and they would wish for good health in the upcoming season. So good health and good luck. And then what they would do is they would tie the strip of fabric to the tree, and that would bestow them with good luck. And some people would also leave coins around these wells. This may be sort of where the idea of tossing a coin into a well goes, and I can't say that out loud and not think of the movie Goonies, so that's definitely dating me.
Really? You said tossing a coin in a well, and I was like, are we supposed to be giving like a buff, sexy dude some money for this shit? What's going on? Because of tossing your coin to the Witcher or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I would much rather toss my coin to the Witcher. What's up?
A Clooty is also, I knew this word, I had to look it up, from something else. Okay, a Clooty's a type of bread dumpling in Scotland. Mm-hmm. Literally spelt exactly the same, and it's traditionally made with like flour, breadcrumbs, dried fruit, suet, so fat, sugar, and spices, with like a little bit of like milk or sometimes golden syrup to bind it. So it's like
basically mincemeat bao.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, really, it's like what do you call fruit? What do you call that Christmas fruit bread? What's that called?
Oh, fruitcake?
Yeah, fruitcake. It's sort of like a traditional fruitcake. Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with mincemeat bao.
Fruitcake often has like meat or like not meat but like fat or whatever in it.
Well,
to like help with the
usually does
fruitcake's
not.
Just like a different thing. Fruitcake's not fresh, which is why everything's like nightmarish.
Yeah, well,
because like the fruitcake that Dad makes, I think uses suet.
Oh, that's fairly uncommh actually. Fruitcake is usually made with butter because you kind of have it in spades.
Because fruitcake is butts. But good fruitcake is good.
You use alcohol to preserve it, and it's made with dried fruits. So Yeah, so Clooty wells, visiting holy wells is quite common. And that's sort of a theme that you see with some of these sabbats. These 4 of them on the Wheel of the Year are sort of like really popular for visiting holy wells. And we'll come back to that. But of course, feasts is another super common thing to be doing. And in particular, fruits of the season. So traditionally that's bilberries, which are a European type of blueberry. So you can use blueberries, blackberries, bread, corn, very, very traditional foods for Lughnasadh. But really anything that's seasonal is pretty much the jam for you. And typically the feast was something called first fruits. And that feast is specifically made with the food that was just harvested that day. So people would get up very, very early to get the first like sheafs of grain and then would take care of them, grind them, mill them, the whole shebang, and then bake them into bread. And then they would use the bilberries or blueberries that they harvested. They would typically sacrifice a bull sort of as the beginning of the end of the harvest season, and then have a ritual play honoring and telling Lugh's story. So it's very specifically that first fruits thing. And you can see that storytelling has been really popular in Lughnasadh festivals going back for a while, because you're having this festival. Why are you having this festival? People want to tell a story. Yeah. So it just sort of becomes, just like story time, play time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so contracts and matchmaking is something that's probably not as common now for these type of festivals, but would have been a cornerstone of
you need your documents stamped, and you gotta play a game of speed dating. Round of speed dating. That's what it was. Speed dating, speed document stamping. 2-for-1 special.
Well, I mean, it's probably because many people lived in rural places that it was difficult to get news from. So this would be a time that everybody would sort of be together, and they can sort of make new laws. So in the Middle Ages, kings even would call truces to attend the festival. Yeah. So like you guys are like hard at war. Lughnasadh happens. I'm taking a break.
Yeah.
So we can all have fun at this festival.
Yeah.
So it was a time for proclaiming laws and settling legal disputes, as well as for writing contracts, both for marriage and for otherwise, because most people nowadays don't really think of marriage as a contract, but really it is. You're basically saying, I promise to be with you for a long time.
Yeah, we all have seen at least literally one old-timey, vaguely fantasy movie. People are selling their kids off for marriage left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Back in the day, right? So when you think of like a marriage contract, I mean, one, you like literally fill out legal documents when you get married in America, right? Like real ass shit.
Yeah.
But also when you think about it as like a back then thing, it would not have been uncommon for a marriage to be engineered around settling a dispute.
Yeah.
So, there's some contractual obligations to that, or engineered around, making sure that there are future heirs to some amount of power or wealth, or anything like that. So
unifying tracts of land.
Yeah, exactly. Fertile for the tilling. But contracts and marriage are kind of hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Historically speaking.
Yeah.
And also,
so one thing that people would do during Lughnasadh is people would have trial marriage ceremonies. So trial not in the court way, but trial as in the temporary way.
Like an old-timey Judge Judy, but about weddings.
I mean, if it was
I would literally fucking watch that show.
Weddings,
0 questions. I would watch that show every single weeknight. It would be amazing.
I feel like that's a Robot Chicken episode.
That probably is a Robot Chicken sketch, now that I'm saying it out loud. Yeah, and if it isn't, it's gonna be.
Now.
Shit, yeah, man.
Yeah. So, prospective couples who wanted to be married would hold hands through a door with a...
We're back. And, so... contracts and matchmaking.
Yeah. So
what is a trial marriage?
So what people would do is they would put their hands through a door, and they would hold hands, that is, through a hole in a door. Don't ask how that works, but and then they would say their vows.
I've been to a bathroom airport.
Ooh, boy.
Gross, right?
So these temporary vows would bind their marriage for a year and a day, after which, during which they would basically act as if they were totally and completely married, like nothing trial about it. But after a year and a day, when the contract expired, they could decide to stay together and to essentially renew the marriage, but it would be a permanent marriage this time, or they could go their separate ways. No harm, no foul.
Oh man, I can't imagine that ended well or smartly.
I don't. I really want to know more about that.
Part of me is like, that seems like a pretty reasonable system, like a trial marriage sort of a thing. I mean, we have trial separations, like that's a thing. So like, why not trial marriages? But I also have literally talked to humans before, and I feel like, well, we're just gonna amicably leave this trial marriage is one of those sentences that like people talk about in like hopeful and dreamy tones, but in reality are like, hey, it's been a year and a day, how are you and Brenda doing? And you're just like, well, my house is on fire, so not great at all.
Well, I mean, you're really sort of starting these trial marriages at like the beginning of the hardest time of year. So it's kind of like your kind of like your trial by fire. If you make it through the winter,
you have 2 months to figure it the fuck out, and then you're trapped indoors for 2 months inseparably. I think we saw how 2020 handled that for some people.
Yeah, but in a way, the trial marriage thing is a lot like what we as like modern Americans look at being engaged is like, especially because many people.
I feel like engagements last that long nowadays too.
Yeah,
they're
many
very
people
long.
we know like get engaged and then they either start living together or they have already lived together for a while.
Yeah.
So they're really just sort of acting as if they are
I guess
married.
like moving in together is vaguely trial marriagey.
It kind of is.
Like back then you wouldn't be like, oh hey, like I'm gonna have fucking Lisa move in, and you're like, wow, that is untoward, dog. What?
Yeah.
Whereas like nowadays you're like, oh, she's gonna move in, and they're just like, cool. Are you offering more than pizza to help? Because if it's just pizza, I'm not helping you.
I'm too old to throw my back out for beer, free beer and a pizza.
Yeah. For fucking free, like, low quality beer and like cheap pizza too.
I mean, I am. You're not
doing like IPAs and Mary's Pizza. If you're from Sonoma County, you know Mary's Pizza. If you're not,
like high end,
like high end pizza.
Yeah, but I mean, really, you're looking at like Coors Light and Little Caesars. But honestly, like
Little
that
Caesars
sounds like a delightful
up,
weekend. We just had a Coors Light and Little Caesars weekend.
It was fantastic. Let's be totally real. So,
It was. So trial marriages were definitely a thing, and you can see that trial marriages historically were a thing going way further back. Very much, especially in Northern European type countries. Yeah. You saw that a lot. The duration of which and how you entered into it and what kind of protections you had.
It's different every time.
Totally different between.
But the concept is there.
Yeah, between millennia.
Guys, I think we bring it back. I think we bring back the trial marriages.
I mean, you can still get married and divorced now.
Well, yeah. Jeez. Like, I think the statistics on married and divorced more than once is like high. But still, I think a trial marriage from a legal standpoint would be a nice start. Like, we're going to be married for like a year. There's no somebody's losing money at the end of this kind of situation. It's all like very no harm, no foul. I mean, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do anything. Like,
we're definitely not going to do that.
Helpful. That's not how this works. But the concept's out there, guys. It's not a bad concept.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, switching gears. Next is climbing mountains or hills. And
just walk up shit.
Walking around.
Happy birthday, Lou. We're going to walk up some shit.
So, the reason why this probably became a thing is, we talked about this in our Imbolc episode, but most of these festivities, and very specifically the sort of like on the wheel of the year, if you were to draw a plus symbol with Lughnasadh at one of the edges, you have Lughnasadh, you have Imbolc, you have Samhain, and you have Yule, typically. So...
Yeah, fucking sure.
So these were...
I couldn't have told you that.
Or... Yeah.
I don't know. There's one of them hanging in the bathroom, but man,
I'm trying to think of like the way that
I couldn't name all of them
so
if you made me.
4 of the sabbats, they have a lot of that kind of same ancient energy to it, where the festivities themselves would have taken place on the top of mountains or hills and near passage tombs. And we talk a lot about passage tombs and the timing celestially and the light
magical
coming
caves you go into, you start a fire, you fall asleep, you wake up in another location.
It's a little bit like that, yes. So those were really common. So I think that this is sort of like an ancient thing that just sort of stayed. So people were used to going up a hill to have these celebrations. And so it just sort of became a thing. Yeah. So after you would climb this hill or mountain, depending on sort of where you are and what you're doing, it was very common to bury the first ear of corn that was harvested as a thanks. To the spirits, as well as a promise, or rather asking them for a promise of an abundant harvest. Yeah. Or, in some places, some flowers you would bury to signify the end of summer.
Like, happy Lughnasadh, go take a fucking hike. Bring some corn.
Yeah! Basically. Yeah. I mean, maybe don't plant, like, ears of corn, because wherever you are, maybe they don't want corn growing there.
That's true.
But, you know, maybe...
Take, like, pretend
flowers.
corn.
No, don't take pretend corn. Because what is that? Plastic? Don't put plastic in the earth.
No, I wasn't thinking of plastic. What about just the husk part of the corn?
Ah, there we go.
Just like the cob part.
I mean, I guess.
I don't think the cob grows, so yeah, you can just take the cob. Yeah, just bring a cob, cram it in the earth.
Yeah, I would still
Actually,
say...
don't plant anything. You're going to be hiking on public trails. Don't leave a fucking mess. But if you own a place where you can climb hill, like I could just fall down that hill and then just like climb back up to my house because we're at the top of a hill.
And then plant some corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my garden. I'll plant what I want.
Yeah. So if you want to do something like that, probably flowers.
You know what I'm talking about.
I mean, you don't really get to plant what you want to because we live in a very specific microclimate that does not allow you to plant.
Trial and error clearly fucking begs to differ. That I'm just like, this looks like this, so plant it. And then Mother Nature is like, we don't have enough light or sun or dryness or wetness or anything. It's not gonna make it. You're like,
living your best witch life.
Shadowy places. Different crops.
Living your best witch life in a cabin in the forest.
Mint fucking loves it.
Has some very interesting side.
Yeah. So does lemongrass. Mostly herbs. We got a lot of herbs. Love it. Fruity shit doesn't. Tomatoes are just like move the pot every day to a better place. It's not good enough here.
Yeah, pretty much. So in some places, this like pilgrimage of like hiking up a big hill really turned into a common custom after the Christianization of Europe that is sort of just like a religious pilgrimage.
Sure.
Sort of going up the hill and carrying a burden, and then you get to the top of the hill and you release the burden. Yay, everything's better now.
Sounds like piles of garbage at the top of hills to me.
It does. I mean, don't literally unload burdens, but, you know.
Yeah, concept.
Yeah, concept.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking for a way to celebrate Lughnasadh, a hike is a really nice way to do it. Plus, you'll get, like, a beautiful view and some exercise.
We can all fare to exercise more.
Yeah, unless you've got a bunch of wildfire smoke wherever you are. I'm looking at basically everything north and east of Oregon. Sorry, maybe don't do that. Take care of yourself first. Yeah. You could build a tiny hill in your living room with couch cushions and then climb that.
Yeah.
It's like a fort. It's like a pillow mountain.
Just get that Stairmaster out.
You could do that too.
Yeah, climb for Lughnasadh.
And on a crafting side of things, weaving wheat into intricate designs or making little dolls out of corn were incredibly common.
Yeah.
So
corn husk dolls.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
Yeah, they really
so
are.
Cool.
We have some that hang. Well, we don't have corn husk actually. That's wheat. We don't have corn husk dolls.
Yeah. We have like a wheat thing hanging in our house that we got from the Scottish Games. Although I think she does corn also.
She probably does.
We just got that wheat one because we liked it.
Well, and we got it right when we bought the house, and it had like a little pentagram, and it had like a little man and woman.
Yeah, it's a dope little house.
It's pretty awesome.
It's house treat.
Yeah, little house wheat.
Yeah.
So these would be done using the leftovers from this first harvest, because when you do harvest, you know, there's sort of like sometimes there's additional bits to the side, and they didn't really have ancient weed whackers.
We should buy corn on the cob and then just like make dolls out of their husks. And I guess eat the corn, whatever.
I'll eat the corn.
I'm not a huge corn person.
I will eat that corn on the cob.
Yeah.
We will have a lote.
Won't participate in the awful cropland nonsense that corn provides.
Yeah.
Non-sponsor. Read Omnivore's Dilemma. It's going to make you real angry about a bunch of just shit you didn't think you could possibly be angry about.
Regarding the food system.
Yeah, regarding the food system. It's a good book. It's very upsetting. I enjoyed it. I listened to it on Audible.
Yeah,
Again,
so
no sponsor.
If you want to do some of this craft stuff, you absolutely can. You can, of course, get some ears of corn from the store, and then you can sort of dry those husks and use them or make them green, and then they dry themselves.
Hang them up,
You can
give some
also
water.
go to wherever the Mexican food section is in your food store, because you can typically find corn husks there, although those ones are primarily used for making tamales. They will still definitely work for this.
Yeah.
Of course,
Do you
can
make a
probably
doll
get this
with
stuff.
dry husk or like green husk? Because
Well-
I feel like you would make it with green husks, right?
You would make it with green husks.
and then you let that shit dry.
Yeah, but you have to be careful if you're making it with green husks that it doesn't just outright mold. So these
Hang it in the
dolls
sun.
and even the wheat. So what we do nowadays is we soak the stalks of wheat, like complete with like the little fuzzy bit at the end.
Yeah, I know how to weave
in water,
wheat. That's-
or like the corn husks get soaked in water, and
Yeah.
then you craft with them. But back in the olden times, they would have been fresh and fairly green when it comes to the corn husks, and maybe not quite as green when it comes to wheat. But they would typically be held over the front door, and sometimes the front door was right next to where the fire was, the hearth fire, like it is actually in our
Like a
house.
hearth fire, yeah.
Yeah, but it's an area that would stay dry, and it would have a lot of air exchange, so you didn't really have that big of a problem with it molding. So you can absolutely do this stuff with fresh stuff, fresh green bits, but you want to make sure that it's not going to mold. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
put
yeah,
it in
be
a
safe.
place with airflow, just like how you would dry herbs, you would dry a corn doll. And these...
I'm just gonna put this out there in case somebody's like thinking a thought they shouldn't. Don't put it in the oven. Don't
Or the
dry
microwave.
Don't dry shit in the oven. That's not do something. Dry it in the sun, man. Let me tell you what. Drying shit in the oven, very dangerous. Don't do it.
Yes.
We're trying to be fire safe here as a Californian and as a crazy person. I'm going to recommend no fires. Do less fire stuff.
And wherever you live, we also don't want your house to burn down.
Yeah, we like you. You're listening to our podcast, so you're gangster. What's up?
You've gotten this far.
Yeah.
So,
Now just survive, please. And I guess continue to listen and like and comment and share and subscribe and all that other stuff.
yeah. So these corn dollies and the wheat that has been weaved into like special designs are typically used for good luck. They're hung in the home, like I said, usually over the door, to bring good luck into the home, as well as protecting the home from negative influences.
Corn demons.
Yeah, from corn demons. It's
What
a
was
thing.
that bloody? What were we watching? Oh, Love, Death, and Robots, where they
Yeah.
were the cornfield demons. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fucking
It
horrifying.
was fantastic. So you can find today, if that's not really, if you don't really want to make this stuff, you can find these things to buy in a variety of
You
places.
can find them all over the place. I
So-
imagine Etsy is fat with corn dolls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. There's a
I'm
lot
trying to
of,
think. Like I'm just like, man, I've seen a lot of like corn dolls and like wheat
yeah.
weavings and such like that for sale, like all the
There's
time.
a lot of small
Always everywhere.
batch, sellers that are really doing cool things.
You could probably also get like a kit if you like don't know what specific materials to source. You could probably just look it up online and like buy a kit for making them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm just like, man, we should totally do that.
We should totally get a kit.
We should totally get a kit and do that.
Yeah,
That'd be
and make
gangster.
some corn dolls. I follow someone on Instagram.
No, I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about. Is corn
makes
dolls.
corn dolls.
Is getting a kit and making corn dolls, or just like go to Safeway and buy corn and
then make corn
just
dolls.
wing it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we celebrate Lughnasadh in a lot of different ways, but one of those ways is by doing crafty stuff. That's typically how we celebrate any Sabbat.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to incorporate some of these ideas into the celebration. And for us, really, Lughnasadh is about going to the Scottish Games for us, where we live in Northern California in the Bay Area region, is by going to the Scottish Highland Games, which is typically in Pleasanton.
Yeah, the Pleasanton Highland Games held at the Alameda County Fairgrounds.
Which have been held for over 150 years.
Yeah,
and we
not
know
there, but
But
and
like
it started
guys,
as just a family picnic.
that it's the post-apocalyptic times. So
Scottish Games are happening this year still.
yeah, so
if you're in
they
the area,
did not
attend.
happen
They're
last
awesome.
year, but we are part of the crew that helps to set these up. This is by no means an advertisement, but we're part of the team that helps to set it up. So for us, Lughnasadh is not just going to an event and paying for, some food and watching some stuff, but it's like about a family that we have that comes together that really doesn't make sense. Like the people that are part of our Scottish Games family, if we met them in real life, and we're all from diverse locations and backgrounds, we would maybe not
I don't know, they're all awesome. We definitely
friends, but they're all pretty awesome, so we probably would have. But my point is
I work at a brewery. I make friends with everybody.
For us, it's like a family, right?
Yeah.
And that's really how we celebrate.
It's a pretty big tradition. I mean, before I was born, my dad used to compete in the Highland Games, and he would go to the Scottish Games with my grandma and all this kind of stuff. In my whole life, the single Scottish Games that I did not attend is in 2020 when it didn't happen. I have, literally quit jobs because they're like, oh, you can't take the time off to go to the Scottish Games. And I'm like, that's super gangster, but I'm not going to work here anymore, so it's not really going to affect the Scottish Games for me. Thanks, I guess. And then just leave. Because, that's my thing. I know when the Scottish Games are happening all the time. I've been attending them literally forever. They're the best. I fucking love them. If you have never been to a Highland Games and you're in the, greater north half of California, go to the bloody Pleasanton Games. They are fantastic. And if you're going, hit me up. We'll meet up. We'll have a beer or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I always go. I always attend. I always help out. I've even set up my clan tent. Dad and I set up the clan tent for a couple of years there. So, it's one of those things. It's like a big fun celebration. And you get to watch dudes flip cabers and
I'm not really a
throw
sports
rocks
ball
and
person.
shit. I love
really
all the heavy event stuff, and all the heavies guys are super rad. It's nice to watch shinty and soccer and rugby.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's super cool, man. It's super cool.
Yeah. So that's typically how we celebrate Lughnasadh, but, there's also, of course, we typically make feasts for sabbats, and we usually do a little bit of something, so this year it'll probably be making some little corn doll crafts.
We'll make some corn dolls.
Yeah, and...
Follow us on social media and see the corn dolls we make. They're probably going to be creepy.
Ooh, they're definitely going to be creepy.
Fucking heads up on that one.
Yeah, they'll definitely be creepy.
I don't really do art that makes, picture-y sense, right? I can't draw a person's face. Anytime, it is like watching magic to me to see somebody take just, a bit of chalk and just be like, look, let me shade all this stuff in, face. And you're like, it looked like random lines, and then all of a sudden a face. He's a wizard. I don't understand how to do that. I do abstract art whole ass. It's so amazing to me. So yeah, these dolls, or at least my doll, very vaguely going to be human shaped. I can't guarantee that I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah. And if you're interested in other ways to celebrate Lughnasadh, you can also look up what celebrations are for Lammas, which is a little bit more of a Christianized version of the holiday, but it's really about baking a lot of bread.
Yeah.
So I typically bake a special type of bread. We call it festival bread. When there's a sabbat, so when it's just the two of us, it's a very small loaf, and when we have more people, there's a larger loaf. But typically for Lughnasadh, you make a loaf of bread or several loaves of bread out of this harvest that you just did today, and you break it into 4 pieces and you bury it at the 4 corners of your property, therefore bringing you abundance and good luck and good health in the coming year and in the cold times. So we'll probably be baking some bread as well, although we probably will not be burying it outside because we're not trying to attract animals into our area.
We have so many wild animals already. We don't need to give them more food. They have so much food already.
Yeah.
It's awful, man. Yeah, so many. It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome, but if you're a gardener, it's just like, what's that noise outside? Is it somebody fucking with my garden? And of course, you go outside and it's like a squirrel or a bird or a deer or some nonsense being like...
Well, the deer generally are messing with our garden because they're trying to eat.
And our fucking trees. Oh, that deer keeps eating my beautiful maple tree. Oh my god. Oh, it's like he's picking on it. He waits for it to grow back just enough, and then he's just like, fuck this tree again. And you're like, why are you doing this? I've literally yelled at this deer. Like, very close to this deer.
Him away.
Like, get out of here. And it's
I'm
just
assuming
like,
it's a him. It might not be a him.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Shoot him away.
Yeah.
But, yeah, okay, well, that's that, yeah.
Yeah. So, we have a couple of fun spells for you as well. Yeah. So, the first one is a prosperity spell.
All right, we're back at it. And before we move on to our two spells...
And the correspondences.
Let's talk about our Patreon. So, tiny commercial. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be boring, I promise. I talk very fast. So, if you would like a written copy of these spells, as well as a complete list of the correspondences, because the correspondences list is long...
And we only go over the highlights.
Yeah, we don't read all of it. That's a waste of time. So, if you want those things, as well as... like on a cool looking page, support us on Patreon, where we have a Horn and Cauldron podcast tier. You can join our Horn and Cauldron coven, I think is what I call the tier.
Yeah.
And so after we do a podcast and Julie converts the notes over to something that's less pages of notes, I build a Book of Shadows page. So we have Book of Shadows pages for every one of our podcasts. I mean, like, I'm a couple of weeks behind because these are not easy to do, and I work a full-time job.
Yeah.
But they're fun Book of Shadows pages that you can keep that have not only the information that we talked about in the podcast, but they also have, they're generally 2 pages. But they also have the spells written out for you and the complete list of correspondences, and you would also gain access to to our Horn and Cauldron podcast Discord, where you can ask us questions or talk to us about the latest episode of whatever show you're watching. It's just like a place for us to hang out and be like fun and like talk about witchy stuff.
Yeah.
We're a no assholes kind of people, so no fucking assholes. If you're an asshole, go away.
Yeah, we also can give magical advice and mentoring through this Discord, and in addition to tarot readings, astrology
we'll
stuff,
hang out.
all those things.
We'll just do all the fun hangout, chill boy stuff, and inevitably, you know, when we get to enough people, I don't foresee this not like vaguely turning into live streaming our sabbats.
Oh, probably.
Because we've already talked, like, this podcast, we had talked about live streaming the sabbats so that way people can join us who are either, like, closeted still or, like, in a location where they don't have a group of people to hang out with and stuff. And it's just like, we'll just, like, live stream the sabbats and the rituals and all that kind of stuff. So that is something that we're looking into doing and getting into. And that's the end of the commercial. Done.
Actually, no. I have just like a little footnote here. So the Book of Shadows pages and the spellbook pages are fully available to be printed, so you can print those yourself.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Or you can also save them on whatever device it is that you're using and look at them as reference
later. They output in a PDF, but like if your printer is weird about the way they output or whatever, like I can work with you and make it easier. I also do cell phone backgrounds for each one of the every Book of Shadows page that I make, because I had to make a bunch of assets and like that stuff. I, as a fun side project to a side project in my life, because that's the level of contrived insanity that I live with, I make really dope cell phone backgrounds.
Yeah.
They're all engineered. We have 12 Pro Maxes for the camera, so they're all engineered for the 12 Pro Max. So that's that shape. But if your cell phone's a different shape, just tell me and I'll just make it whatever cell phone shape your cell phone is. Like it's super easy to do.
Yep.
I just engineer it for our cell phones because I literally change my background with almost every single one of these that I create. Right now I'm running the backgrounds for the Thor podcast because I'm real proud of the Mjolnirs that I designed for that.
And mine is one of the backgrounds from the meditation podcast.
Yeah, and she's running a meditation background right now. So yeah, we do a bunch of fun, cool stuff. Come be fun, cool with us.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. So let's talk some spells.
What's up with these spells, yo?
So the first spell that we're going to talk about today is a prosperity jar spell.
Oh yeah, if you're listening to this, I was having a beer. I'm gonna put the word spells in quotes, and by that what I mean is that sometimes a spell is a craft, sometimes a spell is an action. This is the segment we call it spells, but it's not always like. I was gonna make a Harry Potter reference, and I can think of none of the Harry Potter words right now.
The only
my
Harry
brain
Potter
is
word
so
I can
melted,
think of
dude.
is Patronus.
It's after
but
work.
Then I'm
my
just
head
like,
hurts.
is it Patronus or is it Patronum? Am I just thinking of tequila?
Yeah. Yeah. Wingardium Leviosa. Bam. What's up?
So
Harry
we try to feature different types of spells each time we do a show.
Yeah.
That way we're kind of hitting things. So sometimes it's just crafting. Sometimes it's more of intention work. And sometimes it's drawing sigils. And sometimes it's more meditation. So we're kind of trying to really round out that magical
Diversify
repertoire.
that portfolio, my dog.
Yeah, diversify that witchy portfolio.
Yeah.
So the first one that we're going to talk about today is a prosperity jar spell. So because Lughnasadh is a harvest festival, you're really focusing on abundance and sun energy, and prosperity falls right in line with that. We're calling it a jar spell, but that's really just sort of a loose term because it should actually be container spell, I guess. Because you can use
container just
pretty
doesn't
much
sound
anything.
as fancy as jar, right? I mean, when you're like, oh, this is a jar spell instead of a container spell or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, jar spell just sounds fancier. So that's why we
so
went
you
with
can
it.
use a clean jar, you can use a bottle, you can use really any container you want for this sort of thing. We've used eggshells as containers. You crack it in half, you seal it back up. You can also use orange peels if you're trying to do like peels. I particularly recommend cuties because they're easy to peel.
Yeah.
And they're small and they work really well. So you can use packets like made of paper or biodegradable cloth. Check to make sure it's actually natural and not fake plastic.
If you're not gonna like, we're done with this spell, dispose of it responsibly in like the proper trash bin. Then and you're just planning on like putting it outside, like make sure 100% of the shit that you're putting in it and what it's made out of is cool to be put outside and like biodegradable and not like toxic or something, because we're not trying to poison the earth more as a people.
Or any wildlife that may encounter whatever it is.
Definitely, or any wildlife, let me tell you what. So let's not be assholes.
Yeah, so the first thing you're going to do is to get a clean container.
Yeah.
Jar, bottle, whatever that you're going to do this in. And you can use any size you want. Of course, if you get a really big bottle or jar, you may want to fill it up with more stuff, but really that's totally up to you.
Would you think that buried boats, you know, like how Vikings buried their ships, do you think that's just like a big-ass jar spell?
It kind of is,
It's kind of just a big-ass jar spell. I'm just putting that out there. I just thought about that because when you were like, you could pick any size container, I was like, what about a dump truck? You know, because like 90s hip-hop music has permanently affected my way of thinking in a positive way. So I'm like, what about a dump truck? That contains shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and then I thought about boats because it's the same thing.
The Viking boats and lighting them on fire definitely are
No,
kind of like
not the boat on fire
spell.
with your corpse. I'm talking about the boat buried in all the tiny mountains in England boats.
Even still, absolutely, because you're putting stuff into that with intention, and that's really sort of the bit there.
Yeah.
So
every time you climb that mountain, you're charging that Viking jar spell.
A little bit, yeah. So get yourself a clean receptacle with which to put the stuff in. And this one's actually a pretty easy one. Anybody should be able to put this sort of grouping of stuff together from their pantry, even if you're closeted, should be pretty easy. So gather some dried crushed mint. You could use whole leaves if you want, or fresh leaves, but I highly recommend the dried mint because it's easier to handle. And if you don't know where to get mint, go and find a mint tea bag, and you can use the interior bits of that tea bag.
Mint tea.
Yeah. So get some dried crushed mint, a coin, whatever coin you want. It could be a penny, it could be a quarter, wherever you are. If you're not in America, it could be whatever coins you have there. I don't know what coins
are called in other countries, huh?
Yeah.
You don't know what fractional denominations of money are?
I mean, like, I know the names of some of them, but I don't know specifically what the coins are called.
So a British pound, what's...
Is it a pence?
It's a pence. There you go.
Oh, today I learned.
It is sent in like a bunch of places though.
Yeah.
So
Get a coin, whatever coin makes the most sense for you, and then some grain. And from grain, you can use whatever makes the most sense for you. Any combination or amount of corn, oats, barley, rye, even rice will work for this. You want those small bits.
Yeah.
You can also go for even more ancient grains if you really want to. That's just whatever you've got on hand is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
get yourself one of those slices of 7-grain bread. Peck out those 7 grains.
You could, but that would be... I would not recommend that. I would not recommend that. That would be a lot of work. Although, when I was a kid, we used to get olive loaf, which is basically just like bologna with like cocktail olives in it.
Cut into it? Yeah, it's gross.
I love
it's
it.
Super
I love
gross.
It so
I can't
much.
do olive loaf, not at all.
And we would pick out the olive bits and eat those separately, and they would have little holes. So, get some grain.
Apply grain to jar.
Yeah. And if you can, a yellow, a gold, or like an orange candle. So if you cannot get a yellow or a gold or an orange candle, that's totally okay. Just get a candle. And if you can't get a candle, improvise with something else. But this one's really kind of meant for candle wax. So place the grain in the jar and close it. The jar can be however full you want. You can also put additional things in there if you want. You could put like dollar bills, or you could make sigils or anything to you that signifies abundance. Yeah. But it's really unnecessary for this type of jar spell. It's very simple. So put the grain in the jar, close the jar. Now that the jar has been closed, pour the melted wax from your candle over the top of the jar, which would effectively seal it, but is really unnecessary for it to seal it because you don't have any liquids in there that would be seeping out. And once you've poured the melted wax over the jar, sprinkle your crushed dried mint leaves over the wax. So it should kind of look like a gold background with like little tiny green flecks a la dollar bills, like sort of over it.
If you're in a country that has green money. A lot of countries.
You know what? A lot of countries' money is not green entirely.
In America, it's all green, so...
Yeah. So... You're right. Yeah.
It's just an observation.
Yeah. So after you've sprinkled the crushed mint over the wax, press the coin into the wax. And you may need to melt more wax to press the coin in. That's totally, if you need to do that, go ahead. There's no problems there. Because you really want to seal that coin into the wax. And you can pour wax over the coin and do more mint if you want. Choice is yours, how you want to handle that. But as you press the coin into the wax and do the final seal, you're going to want to say, I plant the seeds that will grow into a bountiful harvest. Like grain, my wealth will grow and sprout. As above, so below, as within, so without. And you're done. Put that jar in a place where you can take care of it regularly. This is sort of a slow burn spell, so it's not going to be something necessarily...
It's not something you have to take care of. It's not going to sprout into something that's not...
Yeah, it's not actually going to sprout.
Yeah, you just have to put it in a place where you're not going to, like, smash it or something.
Yeah.
Just put it in, like, a nice place.
Yeah, and if you feel like you want to shake the jar from time to time or even charge that jar with more intentions, sort of keep it perpetual, you absolutely can.
Ruminate on that jar meditatively.
Yeah. Put it on a necklace, or you could put it in a drawer underneath your mattress.
Tiny
into
jars
the back of a cupboard.
On Amazon are what's up. We got some tiny jars. They're like literally the exact size to like fit in my ear holes.
Oh yeah, because your ears are gauged.
Especially for like grain, like something like this where you're not putting a liquid in it, so it's not heavy. Like putting some barley in it. Yeah. And sealing it up with wax and mint would be super easy to do. It's just like a pair of like abundance earrings. Again, solid idea.
Yeah. And maybe check our Etsy shop too. Maybe I'm gonna do that.
Dang.
Because I know that I feel like a lot of us, as a millennial in the apocalypse times, I feel like a lot of us could use some more prosperity in our lives.
Yeah, man. Heck yeah.
Yeah, so that is the jar spell. Super simple, super easy, very customizable. If you don't have the ability to use a candle so that you can get wax, you can also use like a ribbon or yarn to tie it shut, or you could use tape and you can find a way to sort of enclose the coin on the top there. So you definitely have options there. You could probably use glue, like an Elmer's glue if you wanted to, but Elmer's glue is much more liquidy than wax is going to be, so you're going to want to be careful if you're going to be substituting something. But there's a lot of places that you can take that. Now, the other one that we have is more like a meditation. So this is a Lughnasadh picnic meditation. And this one is really about that, like, climbing hills, doing the pilgrimage, celebrating the upcoming change of the seasons, really. So start by locating a place where you can have a picnic, preferably on the top of a hill or a mountain, but really any place that's outside will work just fine. If that's your backyard, or if you don't have the ability to do something like that in a yard for whatever reason, open a window. Just have it next to a window or something. So find your place where you can have a picnic. Find your time where you can have a picnic. And if you want, find some people to have a picnic with.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you have to do this by yourself unless you want to do it by yourself, which is totally okay. So
Picnic for one. You know what that means? All that salami that you brought, that's yours. You don't have to share that shit. Which, honestly, that sounds nice.
It sounds pretty delightful.
Yeah.
I will take all of the salami.
Yeah, 100% of the meat and cheese. The bread also. No,
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah. So once you've decided where you're going to have your picnic, now decide what you're going to want to eat. This can be as simple as going to the store and getting a Lunchable, or it can be as intense as making yourself a beautiful picnic meal or a bento box. I find that I really like bento boxes for picnics.
Yeah.
With seasonal foods and drinks that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And if you don't really enjoy any of the stuff that's seasonal, just pack something you like. That's really the point of this.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, or if you want some ideas to kind of flesh out that experience and really make it like super authentic and special, our
single malt and a pack of cigarettes.
I mean, if that's your feast, then that's your feast. I'm not gonna hate.
Don't drink and hike.
I'm not gonna make somebody else's yum a yuck. A thing that we just learned from a little saying we just learned from some friends that we met.
She just learned. I've definitely heard don't yuck my yum before.
Definitely never heard that before. So you can refer to our correspondence list if you want some inspiration. We're going to talk about that after we're done with this spell, or of course if you visit our Patreon, then you can access the Book of Shadows pages.
Yeah.
So once you've planned and taken care of your meal, pack the meal up and anything else that you might need to have a nice fun picnic. Maybe you want a blanket to sit on, or like a lawn chair, or sunscreen, or a sun hat, or items for crafting or relaxing. Maybe you really want to go and read outside because it's going to be a beautiful day. Or you want to paint outside, or draw, or play some video games on your Switch. Whatever it is that you want to do for that picnic, bring that with you. But also, when you're packing your food, please, please, please make sure that you are being food safe. If you're going to be in a place that's warm, or you're going to be there for a while, or it's going to take you a while to get there, make sure that you are keeping cold foods cold.
Yeah.
And that's very important, because we don't want you to burn anything down, we also don't want you to get sick.
Yeah. Don't put mayonnaise in a jar on the outside of your bag hanging in the heat for a 4-hour hike.
That's gross. And I like mayonnaise.
I don't, so good.
Yeah. And then the last thing is make sure that you have something to put your trash in, so that you are packing it in and packing it out. Not necessarily
pack out everything you pack in. Pack out everything you pack in.
This is not necessarily from a magical perspective, but more of a practicality one. Don't leave trash in places.
Don't be an asshole. It all the time. You know what? We're gonna make shirts that just say "Don't be an asshole."
We should probably make a shirt.
Yeah, we should make a shirt about that. It's just like, don't be an asshole. Oh, where'd you get that shirt? From everywhere, because it's something that everybody should know. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Dang.
So as you walk out to your destination, or as you drive, or, however it is that you're getting to your destination, meditate about the upcoming change in the seasons and the work that the land has done to regrow from the dark, cold, barren depths of the winter. And when I say meditate about this stuff, meditation is pretty, well, peculiar, and it can be difficult for people to really feel like they're meditating correctly. So the best way that I can think of to do this, other than say, like, hey, listen to our our meditation episode.
Listen to our meditation episode. I can say that. I'm the commercial guy, so
yeah.
Check that out.
But when you're thinking about this, just if your mind starts wandering off and thinking about other things, like you're thinking like, oh man, like these hills are like beautiful and golden, and I remember during the wintertime they were like brown and yucky, and then all of a sudden your mind is like, hey, remember that thing that you said to your boss 2 weeks ago? You're gonna be in trouble for that. Just gently bring yourself back to thinking about the beauty of the rolling fields around you.
Just think about nature. No weird dystopian millennial psycho panic attack shit.
So really, that's what I'm getting at when I'm thinking, when I'm mentioning meditation. And it happens, and I say it because it happens so often to me that I have to remind not only myself, but I want to help y'all out too. Yeah. So think about that.
And you don't have to, I mean, like, if you want to like sit down and like do a big production meditation thing, like that's cool. And if meditation is just kind of like repeating a mantra to you or whatever, again, like listen to our podcast about this. We go into significant detail. Julie and I have very different forms of meditation. You have not been meditating for nearly as long as I have. Because I've been meditating for the like greater proportion of my life, like even like in adolescence and stuff. So I have a very different approach to meditation, and for me it's a bit different. But I also, like, 100% on, like, not an irregular basis, will sit down to meditate, and then, like, 5 minutes in, I'm just like, all right, man, like, I'm gonna take a lap, circle around, come back to this sitting down, not thinking about the stuff that I'm thinking about because I can't stop thinking about it. You know how that shit works. Yeah. So, like, definitely whatever works for you with regard to... It's mostly, like, intent and intention and attention and focus. I mean, that's kind of what you're trying to do here, is sort of, like, focus on what it is to be in a place that's, like, priming for harvest.
Yeah.
You know, it's the beginning of harvest. So, like... ruminate on what that is and what that means.
Yeah. And if you live in an area that's more urban and you don't really have the ability or the drive or wanting to go out to like a park, you know, or something like that, maybe it's not near you or you don't feel safe because of the apocalypse, then you can feel free to do this as more of an urban sort of thing, because even if you live in essentially like a city where most everything is concrete, you can still see where the changes of the season are happening. There are still trees. People still typically have yards or decorations in the front of their homes, or things like that.
If it's not how nature changes, it's how the architecture around you may or may not shift relative to season, or the way people dress, or the sounds of the streets. I mean, if you live in a supremely urban environment, then there are still seasonalities to, you know, and I mean, like, sometimes that seasonality is like we got a couple more months until meatball subs are the regular, you know, kind of thing, or whatever. But it's
a few months past road construction season.
Or, you know, or the bodega is, you know, it's like piles of fresh fruit of the bodega times, as opposed to like, you know, canned goods on special bodega times, and you know, that's the same thing, and it's just like, you know, and I joked about like pull out the Stairmaster if you want to walk up a hill, but you know, a journey is a journey regardless of like the situational metrics of the journey. You know, like, yes, if you can go out into nature and walk through nature, then you know, like, do that. That's, you know, that's good. That's sort of like the logical basis for the idea. But if that's not feasible, then kind of think about what the point of that exercise is, and find a similar exercise based around your situation. Right? And this is something that, I'm just going to wax a little crazy right now. This is something that as a species we're going to have to adapt for with increased frequency as we venture towards multiplanetary and interstellar populations. So, like, when it says, like, go hike in the woods, Lunarians, moon folk ain't gonna have woods for a while. So we got to find other ways, right?
Yeah.
So let's not get caught up on like specificity with this. I mean, like things have meanings and purpose, and that stuff's important. But you know, there are always other routes to the same end.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So once you get to where you're going for your picnic, then you're going to go ahead and set up your picnic. And as you start to begin to eat, thank the spirits and the land and your ancestors for giving you the food that you're eating on the land that you're eating it on. It was not easy to get out of wherever they were and be where you are now and create a city and homes and agriculture and land and stuff. It takes a lot of work. So really sort of reflect on that and be thankful. And as you're doing that, visualize the sun filling you up with energy and helping you grow, much like the sun will fill up plants with energy and help them grow. Allow the sun to do that for you in, of course, the safest and most fun way possible. So once you are done with your picnic, of course, go ahead and, once you're done eating, you can do whatever you want, or you can just go straight home. But, try to kind of live in that, like, beautiful sun-kissed moment where you really, like, felt that flow.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, it's time for me to read a list of things.
Yeah, all right. I guess it's correspondences time, so we're going to take a break. Stay tuned for correspondences.
Correspondences.
Okay. We're back. Correspondences.
That's right.
Yeah,
Correspondences.
I'm going to keep in both correspondences.
It was very aggressive.
We're back for them. Stay around. Whatever, man. You know what's going on.
Yeah. So this is the section where I just basically read a list of correspondences about whatever we're talking about, and today it is Lughnasadh correspondences.
Now you have to do it alphabetically and in a rhyming scheme.
Definitely not rhyming, although I have taken great pains to alphabetize all of the sections of things.
I know. Good. Because it would be infuriating if it wasn't alphabetized.
Yeah.
I'm definitely 100% that crazy, so...
The first couple of times I did correspondences, they were not alphabetized, and it kind of drove me a little crazy.
Yeah.
The categories are not alphabetized, but that is on purpose because to me this makes the most sense in the way of ordering it. So we're going to start with animals. So the animals that are associated with Lughnasadh are centaurs and deer and roosters.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Colors are all of those beautiful harvesty fall earth colors. We're looking at gold. We're looking at green. We're looking at orange. Actually, I know that green isn't normally a color you associate with harvest, but it's the beginning,
I mean, it definitely is, right?
Yeah.
You're not harvesting tomatoes from a blue tomato plant. Put that out there right now.
I actually just saw a thing recently about blue tomatoes. Like genetically modified blue tomatoes.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say nature doesn't really do blues so normal, but I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are your colors. You got your golds, your greens, your oranges. All that kind of stuff.
Leafer colors.
Late summer colors. So as far as stones and crystals and rocks, we're looking at amber and citron and peridot. Again, following with that color sort of thing.
Yeah, you're definitely sticking with that like a brown gold. Green, like...
Yeah, green hills and rolling fields of grain, basically.
Yeah.
And for plants, the ones that are the most aligned with Lughnasadh are basil and cinnamon, mint, which is actually in season right now, poppies, and rosemary.
Yeah.
For foods, my favorite category, ales and beers.
See? Beer is a food. You can definitely drink your dinner.
Yes.
IPAs for dinner, for everybody.
Yes. Blackberries and blueberries, really any kind of berry. Bread, we've already talked about loaf, about loaf mass day and about lammas bread.
Yeah.
Grapes and grain and mead and really any other seasonal foods.
Yeah.
But really, when it comes down to it, pick something you like. If you don't like blueberries, don't use blueberries.
Yeah, that
even
makes
if that's
sense.
more, quote, historically accurate.
Yeah.
Do the thing that you like. For deities that are similar to or related to Lughnasadh, of course, the god himself, Lugh, which this festival is named after.
Yeah.
But in addition to him, Demeter and Gaia and, oh boy, where did I put her name?
Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan are deities that are associated with this festival. As far as other symbols, dolls made from corn husks, grain weaving, honoring your ancestors, those are all sort of things that are really associated with Lughnasadh.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want the complete list of all the things that we chose not to read because of time,
This isn't even half
yeah.
of the list.
Yeah, some of these correspondence lists are like, oh, that's not too bad, so we read, like, most of them. And some of them, I just recently did a Book of Shadows pages for one of them, where I was like, oh, I'm going to bring the correspondence list over, and I looked at it, and I was just like, all right, I'm going to re-engineer every graphic on this page, because this correspondence list is 75% of this fucking page now.
Yeah. Well, and the reason actually that I do that is a little bit to, torture you. But really it's mostly because growing up,
there's a bunch of shit connected to a bunch of shit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's connected. But growing up and being a young witch in a time where there wasn't really anything out there that you could use other than like random books on Wicca, there wasn't a lot of spells that had available ingredients to me. Like they would say use St. John's wort
or bloodstone,
or
just
bloodstone or dragon's blood, and I would just feel like I can't. Like I don't have the ability to acquire these items, as well as I was afraid of coming out of the broom closet, so there was a lot of reasons why I couldn't get these items. So I really do these correspondences, and the way that we write the spells are as such so that you can modify it to whatever you want. That way, if there are any limitations on you as a practitioner, whether that be about money or about being in the closet or about just not wanting to go through a whole bunch of work and spend a bunch of money to do something, these correspondences can help you really build your own sort of magical things. Because maybe you have basil available to you, but maybe you're just not really like a big basil fan, or you went to the store and it was all gone or something, so you wanted to use rosemary instead. So if you're looking for Lughnasadh stuff, that's a perfectly acceptable substitute. There's no problem with that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, okay, so big old list of correspondences, spells, history, festivities. This has been Lughnasadh, right?
Lughnasadh.
This has been Lughnasadh. How do I want to end this? Thank you for listening.
First of all, we want to tell you what's coming up next.
I guess we're going to end it with that.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
So next, we're going to be doing a deep dive on...
It doesn't matter what's next. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for like a week and a half to do that shit. I forgot it last time. It's not important.
You even forgot your own joke. Even the dogs were laughing about it.
Dogs liked it.
So next we're going to be doing a deep dive into the goddess Isis.
Nice.
Pretty excited. I actually have an Isis tattoo, so this is like a big one for me.
Yeah, awesome. So join us next time for Isis. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. We are coming to you from our fucking houses, man. It's
the apocalypse.
It's the apocalypse times. I mean, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, but
these generally come out every other Monday. We are recording this on Wednesday. It will probably come out like either early Wednesday or late Thursday for you guys. It depends on how fast my laptop wants to process information. And sometimes it's fast, and sometimes it doesn't matter. It won't do work for me. But yeah. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and do all that kind of stuff. If you are listening to us on your podcast network of choice, please leave us a review. Tell us what you thought, and join us for the next one. If you would like to support more creative endeavors of this nature, as well as gain access to our Discord, where we can just kind of hang out and talk witchy stuff, and our Book of Shadows pages, which are like a review of all the information we talked about to permanently go in your Book of Shadows. These are printable, as well as both of the spells and the correspondences written out, and like a bunch of fun graphics, because I do graphic design stuff for fun with them. And it's all like kind of one uniform style or whatever. It's the Horn and Cauldron podcast style. It's my thing. It's weird. It's
but
fun.
most of all,
and we get cell phone wallpapers. You get to again support more of this witchy creative stuff because we do this as a side project. And
it helps to make us better.
Yeah, definitely.
But most of all, thank you so much for listening or watching, as the case may be.
Yep.
And until next time, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.
Yeah, stay witchy, folks.